Anyway, I'm delighted to be with you today. I forgot how much fun Shellbacks is. A couple of years ago, I did attend a couple of lunches with you, and certainly my partner and I were commenting on what a miss it's been this year. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to attend just because of work during the day. Maybe you can consider doing some evening Shellbacks, and we'd love to join. So today, DSAO presented 2 years ago, and I'd like to bring you up to speed on how our organization's been doing the last 2 years, but especially focusing on last year during COVID. So the title of my presentation is Making Sailing Accessible in a Year Full of Inaccessibilities. For those of you who aren't as aware, the Disabled Sailing Association of Ontario, DSAO for short, was established in 1999 to provide sailing opportunities for Ontarians living with disabilities, regardless of ability or age. Our goals are to provide a unique, enjoyable experience for all participants, which include opportunities for therapeutic, recreational, rehabilitative, social, and competitive activities. We strive to build confidence and self-esteem for people with disabilities and enhance their independence through sailing. And we also want to facilitate the integration of disabled and able-bodied individuals through recreation and competition. In 1999, just to give you some history, DSAO's flagship program, QQDSP, Queen's Quay Disabled Sailing Program, was created as an extension of the British Columbia's Disabled Sailing Program, which had been established in 1989. And they also hosted a Mobility Cup in 1991. Mobility Cup is a racing program using the Martin 16 for people involved in these programs. Mobility Cup was brought to Eastern Canada for the first time in 1999, so the year that DSAO was established, and it was hosted by DSAO and held at the National Yacht Club. At DSAO, we offer recreational sailing, learn to sail opportunities, and also racing. Recreational sailing, we can really see the success of our recreational and rehabilitation programs as evident through the growing number of people that participate in our program. I'm going to go through some numbers later on in the presentation to share with you on just what those numbers look like. But people with mobility and other impairments can leave their wheelchairs and their disabilities behind and enjoy the independence and freedom that one experiences when sailing. DSAO also offers organizations which serve people with disabilities the opportunity to bring groups to the waterfronts for a sail. So we do host quite a number, or we have hosted in the past quite a number of groups in our program. We have 2 sonar boats, 23 feet keel boats, and then we have 6 Martin 16s. We also offer learn to sail opportunities for members who would like to achieve their CAN Sail 1, 2, or 3 certification. And Sail Canada has adapted their certification programs to suit parasailing. And as you know, CAN Sail courses build on fundamentals of sailing, which are taught by our instructors, and they increase sailors' comfort and confidence in a sailboat. Our racing program, which is very popular for sailors who have been sailing for a while, is just a natural progression after you learn the fundamentals of sailing. It's a great opportunity to meet other sailors and enjoy the camaraderie that comes with spirited competition and learning both on and off the water. We host guest speakers to give racing talks before race nights. Our race nights are generally on Thursday nights in the harbor. And we always have a full program for racing. We also participate in local and some away regattas as well. And finally, the DSAO hosts social barbecues in the summer with regular events in the winter for our members and guests. We've been hosting, obviously, this winter through virtually through our Google Meets, and it's just a great way to keep people involved throughout the winter. As you can imagine, winters can be very tough for people with disabilities, let alone for everyone, and especially this winter. So here's just some fun pictures from past seasons before 2020 to share, just so that you get an idea of how our program had to change last year. So I talked about our racing program, and this was a picture from our last race in 2019. We're all holding up our new steam whistle IPAs. We do have a great partnership with Steam Whistle, who support our program, and we were given some cases to try out their new IPA beer just as it was hitting the market. So in transitioning to, when lockdown occurred in mid-March, and Diane alluded as well to, in my professional life, working for Royal Bank in their corporate real estate, I was very involved in the effects of what COVID was doing to our workplace, our social activities, etc. So when we all went into lockdown, it was very clear that this wasn't going to be a short-term thing, and knowing that from kind of the preparations that the bank was making in transitioning their employees to home. So we knew that for our organization that we would also have to act quickly and make some adjustments. We had already started planning to work on the boats, which are kept on the island. Harbourfront was putting our docks in, and also we were preparing for our AGM, which was going to be hosted in April. So immediately we postponed our AGM to May, and we looked at what our process was going to be to hold it virtually. You'll remember that, at the time, there was no corporate governance precedent set for hosting AGMs virtually. So we consulted with, I consulted actually with an ex-professor of mine from Rotman, Richard Powers, who's a lead in corporate governance in Canada, as to what we should do. And through our Google Meets platform, we were able to host 80 people for our virtual AGM. So this is just a picture of after the AGM. We always have social events, and that's something that's core to our values and our culture at DSAO. And so afterwards, you can see in the top, Natasha and Adam are playing the guitar, and we're having a sing along and a social event after the AGM. So we were definitely one of the first to clubs, sailing clubs anyway, to host a virtual AGM, and we're quite proud of that, because it gave our members, confidence that we weren't going away. So as I said, the boats, that was another big headache logistically. When we were in lockdown, we at first we were not granted access to the island to work on the boats, and then when that loosened up, we were able to get over there and start preparing them. So really, there's three main areas that we concentrated on in order to set us up for success for the 2020 season. The first one being stakeholder management, second, equipment, sourcing of equipment and resources that we were going to need, and the third being, adding all those extra operational processes so that we could ensure the health and safety of our members to go sailing. So I'll just talk a little bit about each. So I don't want to underestimate the amount of stakeholders that we have, even during a regular season to operate our program. Obviously, it was complicated even more last year with the addition of having to consult with Health Ontario and Toronto Public Health to really understand how we could or could not operate. We have a very good relationship with the mayor's office. We had celebrated our 20th anniversary in 2019, and although Mr. Tory couldn't come to our celebrations, we did have the Honorable Elizabeth Dsao attend. And so we do, as I said, we do have a very good relationship with the mayor's office. So we also did consult with them to let them know that we were thinking of opening based on a limited program and what that looked like, so that they could share learnings from any other clubs that were operating. Maybe not on the sailing side, but maybe in the para sport programs. Our landlord being Harbourfront, regular talks, obviously, with them. They wanted to see that we had our safety protocols in place. We also wanted to see that they had their safety protocols and increased security in place, and the changes that they were making as well to the grounds and how we were going to operate within. So just to give an example, we're in a very public area. There's a lot of people that frequent the grounds, and knowing what Harbourfront was going to do to control traffic and what security they were going to put in place, we ended up having to negotiate with them as well as our neighbors to have exclusive use of the accessible washroom on the premise, and put locks on all the washrooms so that we could ensure contact tracing, and that we didn't have the public utilizing those washrooms. So obviously our neighbors use the washrooms as well, but in the case of the accessible washroom, we did have exclusive use unless there was someone from the neighboring clubs who also needed it. The Marine Police are a regular big stakeholder of ours. They know us well. We know them, and just making them very aware of how we were going to operate, the hours we were operating, and the forecasted amount of people we expected to have around our area. The other thing that the Marine Police came in very handy, and I'll talk about it later, is there was an increase of incidents last year that had happened, and they were very helpful in controlling and mitigating a lot of the risks that some of those incidents could bring. Royal Canadian Yacht Club is a great partner of ours. As I said, we store the boats there, and the Marine Services do help us out quite a bit with our motorboat maintenance, etc. And then, of course, our neighbors, being Harbourfront Sailing and the canoe and kayak people next door. That was very interesting. We've always had great relationships, and we still obviously do with our neighbors. The difference is that canoe and kayak is a for-profit business, whereas Harbourfront and ourselves were more not-for-profit on the charitable side. So canoe and kayak, we found because it was great that we had such a great relationship with them, because they did tend to kind of test those boundaries quite a bit when it came to wanting to operate, because they are a for-profit business and not wanting to lose too much revenue, but certainly accommodations and and changes had to be made to their ways of operating to ensure that our members remain safe around. So sourcing of equipment, I know it seems weird to say that now, but at the time, you would have remembered, like, this is when toilet paper was hard to find. You couldn't source masks and hand sanitizers because whatever supply there was going, obviously to the hospitals and also to the workplaces as well. I there was because they thought that we were going to be going back to work a lot sooner than we have been, so they were certainly sourcing all that. So we ended up actually getting a close friend of ours who is an importer of masks and hand sanitizers and face shields, ended up giving us some of his supply. So we were very lucky to have that early on. And as well, of course, plexiglass was hard to find. We needed plexiglass to ensure in our clubhouse where the offices, where people come and they pay for their sales or they need to book sales. We needed to ensure that there was some good barriers up to protect our office manager. And then spray 9, you probably know spray 9. It's used a lot in the hospitals, and we sourced out some spray 9 to use around the washroom, the high touch points in our area, and then also our boats to clean the boats as well between uses. So our operational processes did have to change quite a bit, or we had to add, of course, some. There were some restrictions on clubhouse use because we have a small clubhouse on our premise. We only allowed 3 people in the office at once, and also we tried to limit the amount of members or volunteers that would access the office. So instead, we'd have them go under the tent, and if they needed to get anything out of their bags, and then we would have staff carry the bags into the office for safekeeping. I talked about the accessing or having the accessible washroom solely for our use. That was vital. Obviously our members require the accessible washroom, but we ended up having to, as I said, put a lock on it, and then just anyone from Dsao could use it, and then obviously cleaning it after every use. Contact tracing, we required everybody who was on our premise. It didn't matter if they were a care worker, a guest, a family member, or a sailing member. We required them to sign in, so we knew exactly who was there. And then obviously COVID waivers and making protocols very well known ahead of time before people arrived on premise, and mandatory wearing of masks while on property and sailing. Again, this might seem like a no-brainer now, but at the time there was no requirement anywhere that you had to wear masks, especially outside. So we did make that mandatory just to ensure the safety of everyone. So as I said, the season, and I'm going to get into the success of the season, but certainly it wasn't without incident. The amount of people, I guess, because of either, well, I know the island was closed. That was number one. So a lot of people from the condos downtown wanted to access Harborfront. I guess, people thought that things would be open around Harborfront, but it was incredible the amount of people that were down there during the warm weather. And, wanting to access the washrooms, wanting to even, buy water off of us because nothing was open. It was really incredible. There was a lot of public intoxication because although the beer and the liquor stores were open and Amsterdam was open for buying, they weren't open the restaurants weren't open. So people would just come to the park and have fun there. And then, a lot of that led to sun tanning and swimming off our docks. We constantly had to ask people, to leave. Certainly, if anything escalated, that's where the Toronto Marine Police came in and Harbourfront Security. And just every morning we'd arrive and there'd be garbage and vandalism. You couldn't leave anything out. Harbourfront ended up actually gating off a large portion of their area. If you left anything out, it would be taken. So from all around. So not just us, but from everybody. And this picture, I know you're wondering what the picture is. So this was just a picture of one of our staff members texted me early in the morning. He had arrived before work starting, and this was a random person who had passed out on our deck there, and you can see next to our dock boxes, and wasn't responsive. So he had to call. He had to call the ambulance for them. So that being said, I will say that we had an incredibly successful year. And when I say and I'm going to get into the numbers next, our goal was to open for the season. And even if we got one person out sailing, it was going to be successful. You're going to see we had a very good year given under the circumstances. And because it really does mean a lot to our members. We're going to try again to play that video, but I really wanted to highlight that, like us who love sailing, our members also live for sailing. So, right now we're all dying to get out again. And certainly that's the case with our members as well. So just to get into some of the numbers. So based on, I put, what the 2019 season looked like, and then what our 2020 season looked like. So our 2019 season, we ran for 14 weeks. Our 2020 season, we ran for 8 weeks. Still good. The sailing memberships, we saw a big reduction, obviously, in our sailing memberships. That was due to a few reasons. One being that a lot of our members live in assisted homes, and they weren't allowed out last season. This season, we're thinking that's definitely going to change, and we've kind of been given the heads up that that's going to change now that vaccinations have been rolled out, and a lot of those members who live in homes were in that phase 1 of vaccination. So our sailing memberships went down. We had almost 20 sailing members, and with that also our volunteers as well. Some of our volunteers or actually I should say a lot of our volunteers are retired sailors, and they just didn't feel comfortable, which is totally expected. But at the same time, we were able to have 13 dedicated volunteers, plus our staff, and 5 of which were brand new. So that was really exciting to see. So in 2019, when we operated a full program, being all 6 Martin 16s, 2 sonars, and also 2, we had 8 staff in 2019. 2020, we were able to do, based on a reduced program, we were able to get almost 150 sail outings. That's incredible. You know, I mean, if our program hadn't run, this never would have happened. So for, you know, the 18 to 20 sailing members, they sailed a lot, and certainly had a great summer doing so. And so based on restrictions as well, we were only able to offer our recreational and instructional sails, not our racing program group sales or the can sail programs. So this is just, as I said, you know, it really is in part to our volunteers, our staff, why this program ran last year. And this is just a picture highlighting one of our new volunteers. For those that are at Queen City, this is Paul, and with Al Harris there. And then, of course, our fabulous staff. We have really lucked out in staff over the past couple of years. The gentleman on the left that you see is Darren. He is actually a pre-med student. He came to us. He's been working now with the program for 4 years, and he's going to medical school in Ireland. He worked with us last year, and it was incredible to have him back, especially during last year, because he was able to use a lot of his medical knowledge and training to train others, and certainly is an exceptional sailor as well. The gentleman in the middle is Troy. Troy is hearing impaired. During the year, he is an instructor of ASL. And in the summers, he comes and works with us. He's a qualified offshore sailing instructor as well. And he's fabulous. I will say our staff, they don't know sign language, but Troy is able to read lips perfectly. And just because he's just such a qualified sailor, he's able to, you know, to anticipate and you know, things run without a hitch between everybody. And then Maria was our office manager as well, and she helped out on the docks when we needed extra hands for transfers and for getting the boats out and in on the docks. We did run, as I said, a limited program, so we only ran 3 boats, 3 of the Martin 16s, which you'll see in the background there. They are for 2 people, and 1 being the sailor and 1 being the companion. And we only rigged 3 of those. So it was, you know, for half of the resources, we certainly got a lot of sailing in. These are just some other highlights from the season. On the left, so I sail stars as well, and it reminds me of how I sail my star, you know, sailing downwind, leaning to windward there. This was on a day where you can't really tell, but it was pretty breezy. It was about 18 knots, and we had Quinto out there sailing the Martin 16 so well. It looked like, as I said, it looked like sailing my star out there. So we were out on the coach boat just to make sure nothing happened. And then on the right is Rick Waters, for those that know Rick. He's a longtime member of Disabled Sailing and on the board. And that was one of our first sailing outings that season. I just remember what it meant to both of us to be out there. So in looking forward to the 2021 season, we are expecting that we're going to hopefully, fingers crossed, about the numbers in Toronto right now. But you know, certainly if we're not in lockdown, we will operate a full season, or as full of a season as we can, and we are expecting to hire full staff and put in all 6 boats to be ready for sailing. So we're really excited about that. And then we'll see what other restrictions exist if we can have the can sail programs this year and racing. But certainly we're getting ready for sure. So that concludes, I guess, the formal part of the presentation. And you can find us. Here's a way to find us. We have a website. We have a very active Facebook community, our Instagram, always posting fun pictures. And then there's where our clubhouse is located, as well as our email. So that's certainly how you can reach us. With any questions you may have. One thing I do want to say as well, and given my audience here, is that, you know, one of the areas that we're also beginning to concentrate on, and we were in 2019, is developing a program for seniors. So seniors with mobility issues, seniors who want to get out sailing, who aren't necessarily comfortable sailing on regular boats. You know, you don't have to be a sailor by background to do it, but we were having talks with Amica retirement homes to start a program for that. So that's something as well that, you know, I feel very passionate about, is especially for people who have been sailing their whole life, is having being able to sail in their senior years when maybe they can't access their boats as well. So Graham, can I try the video one more time before we?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Try the video, and then afterwards, after the video, I'll show the slide of how we want people to raise their hands so we can make sure we get everybody's question in.
Okay, great. Okay, just give me a second then. Just give me one more second here, just to try something. No, maybe Graham, maybe just do the hands up thing, and then I'll see if I can get it going in the background. Thanks.
It's just like, okay, so if anybody has any questions, please raise your virtual hand and we'll take you in order. And thank you. And that's the way to do it. So if there are any questions, please raise your virtual hand and we'll take you in order.
No questions.
Yeah.
Does
We
anyone
have
want to come and volunteer with us?
we have a question from Wayne Parker. Can you go ahead, Wayne, unmute
Great.
yourself and ask your question?
Thank you. I'm just curious of, you were mentioning about seniors and talking to Amica. Have you taken any seniors out, and what is the oldest senior that you've taken out to date?
So our oldest senior, Wayne, is actually a volunteer with us. So who is just transitioning now to becoming a sailing member with us. And he's 86.
Wow.
Okay, so then I have a question from Liz Lyle. Please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question or your comment.
Hi, Liz.
See you. Make sure you say hi to your mom and dad.
I will, thanks. Yeah.
And do they still have Fiddlers 3?
So they transitioned from Fiddlers 3, which was the CNC 32. They transitioned to a Beneteau 343 about 12 years ago.
My goodness.
But that's at Queen City. Yeah.
Yep. Wonderful. Excellent presentation. And it's so good to see the growth within your organization.
Yeah. Thanks for noticing. Yeah.
And yeah, it's huge because as you remember, my son Christoph also was a member and volunteered. But a very interesting presentation, and I wish you a very good summer.
Oh, thanks, Liz.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, come see us down at Harborfront.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and Sally Noel have a question. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hello, thank you for your presentation. I help with cadets, and there's been no in-person for over a year, and they've just canceled the summer training. And I think it's amazing that you managed to get as many people out on the water and staying sane as you did. And I just wanted to say what they would say in the Navy is BZ, Bravo Zulu, well done.
Thanks, Sally. Yeah, if you want to talk about so the cadets, we have had a staff member that has come from the cadets program in the past, and certainly, yeah, we can talk about if there's anything partnership or anything we could do that. Yeah, we definitely would be amenable to that, because we are putting in this year. We're putting in our sonars as well, the 2 sonars, which are 23 feet. And they're normally used for group sails. So normally if they can walk on the boats, we use those. We have a program for youth with autism in the past that we've used the boats for, and as well for family sails. So, those are 2 boats that certainly could use some use as well.
Okay, next we have Spencer or Linda. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
It was a great presentation, Amanda. Thank you so much. And it's I've heard a little bit about it. One of our blind friends sailed here locally in Oakville and loved it.
Okay, great. Yeah.
But I'm curious how you became involved.
Oh, thanks for asking. So yeah, Diane gave a bit of a history. So I grew up sailing, obviously. My parents, as you know, Liz, we knew Liz from the marina years ago, and I became an instructor after doing all of my learn to sail and racing. And when I was an instructor over at RCYC is when disabled sailing started. And so I actually volunteered with them in 1999 when they first started. And I was only about 18 years old then. So I became involved way back when. And then, life, busyness, school, etc., sort of lost touch. And then in 2016, I want to say 15, 16, I actually took a summer off work and reestablished my connection with the organization. And met a lot of members and volunteers who urged me to get involved. And I think, the program was at a point where with a lot of charities, you know, it needed an infusion of energy and corporate governance for a lot of the reporting now that we have to do, being a charitable organization. So just having that background, I was able to bring that as well as my sailing knowledge to the program. So it's unusual, you know, I am the first person in its history that doesn't identify as having a disability. But certainly we have lots of representation on the board from all of our various stakeholders.
I could tell from your presentation that they are blessed by all your corporate experience.
Okay,
Thanks.
before we get to Diane to wrap it up, we have we have a question or comment from Shane. Go ahead. Unmute yourself and.
Hi, could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thanks. Yeah.
Excellent. I just wanted to say thank you very much, Amanda. I have a little story to tell you. I learned how to sail at Queen's Quay Disabled Sailing.
Awesome.
My first boat was the QQ or the DSO boat, Ice Bucket, that I purchased from them a number of years ago.
Wow.
And I really hope to be able to volunteer again this year. From my question now is your perspective on the accessibility of sailing clubs and marinas. Do you think that everybody's on target for AODA compliance?
2025, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I thought as much.
Yeah, to be frank, no. That is definitely an area as well that you know, we have some very passionate volunteers in our program that are very passionate about bringing accessibility to our yacht clubs. So not only, you know, buildings, etc., but our yacht clubs as well, and making them more accessible, and also the integration of people with accessibility needs within the yacht clubs. So for, you know, AODA, yes, they put, you know, the stick in the sand. They said, okay, by 2025. But I can tell you, having done a lot of work with the Rick Hansen Foundation, being, you know, my corporate real estate background, yeah, it's definitely gonna take a while, but certainly it's great that we have these programs in place, that we have standards now that we can try to adhere to. But as far as, yeah, getting all the yacht clubs involved, I was going to bring it up to the Commodores Committee, or there's like a
Yeah.
Council of Commodores. I'm hoping that it's on their agenda as well. So no, my focus hasn't been on that. My focus has actually been on the eastern. I've been involved in the development of the eastern part of the harbor and sit on that committee, just to make sure that we have you know, accessible sailing, and we're a stakeholder at the table for that. But certainly probably the next thing will be for yacht clubs to increase their accessibility.
Well, I tried to raise awareness because there were a lot of clubs that were undergoing very significant retrofits of their docks to produce floating docks. And I say, now that we're doing an infrastructure project, let's take a look at accessibility. And this is not just for persons with disabilities. What we have now in a number of clubs are people who are aging and that may encounter mobility issues. So I'm like,
Absolutely.
you know, some barrier-free planning will allow people to enjoy sailing much longer into the future than we currently have. And there's been some response, but I haven't seen anything really happen. And I think there's confusion as to cost
On they think, I
planning.
think, yeah, you're right. Confusion about, they think that they have to do everything at once, right? But it can be in little steps. So, you know, working on first paths, working on, you know, accessibility within clubhouses, before you get to you know, the bigger area of elevators and everything else.
Which
Yeah,
is a huge expense, definitely.
absolutely.
And most clubs seem to be structured on a multi-floor format. And that creates a barrier because an elevator can be $50,000 to $200,000. And that's really a barrier for the clubs, but it's also a barrier for people that really can't navigate stairs.
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe Shane, why don't maybe I can get your email through Diane, or you can get
Sure.
mine, and I'd
I'm
love
on
to
your
touch
Facebook
base.
for Queens
The
Quay and
community?
DSAO. Yeah,
Okay, great. I'll look you up then.
excellent. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Okay, hey,
Good job.
before I turn it over to Diane, is there anybody else? We have a chance for one more question or comment. If not, I'll turn it over to Diane.
I am unmuted, and thank you very much. Amanda, that was amazing. I do have a couple of questions. You talked about youth with autism. How old does the person have to be? Can they be?
So the specific program that we ran, so autism being a disability, anyone can join our organization as a member who identifies as having a disability. So I'll put that out there. The program that I was speaking about was a group program in which youth aged, I'm going to say 9 to about 17 would come weekly on Mondays and sail with us as a group. So we ran it as a group program. They would alternate between sonars and the Martins, if available, and how many people. And that was a really great way of getting the youth with autism together. It's amazing, even in my short amount of time experiencing people with autism, the ability that how they communicate with each other and then also with us. It's really something to see. So
I asked the question because I have one person in mind in particular. He's in his 20s though.
that's okay.
He
Yep.
would be available then to access. And I guess my second question is, how do you raise money? Where do your resources come from?
Yeah, great question. So it is a combination of grants, but also the majority of our funding comes from donations. So yeah, individual right now, we don't have corporate donations or corporations, but we do have individual, very generous individual donors.
That's very good. Congratulations. I'm glad for that. I'm excited to hear about your seniors program. I think that's a really good direction in which to go, because there are a lot of people who give up their boats for various reasons, but would still like to get out for a sail occasionally. So congratulations on that. And also on your incredibly successful year. Given the COVID situation, I'm really impressed with the barriers you faced and how you overcame them. So I thank you so much for your presentation today. I will send out next week with my regular missive. I'll send out all your contact information. So if there is anybody who wishes to volunteer, they'll be able to get in touch with you easily. And of course, they can access you online if necessary. I need to get your home address because we give out a little token of appreciation, as you may be aware. So afterwards, if you wouldn't mind emailing that to me, I would certainly appreciate it.
Oh, fantastic.
Let's just give our guest speaker a lovely little round of applause. And I know you can't hear, but you can see that we are most appreciative of the effort you made. And I would like to let everybody else know that Amanda has been preparing for the AGM during this while she's working. And so she had asked if she could switch with another speaker. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. So I really thank you for making that effort and for being here today. So another round of applause for Amanda. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And coming up next week, we have Karen Tieran, who's going to be sharing her experiences on an around the world research expedition with an all-female crew. So that should be very interesting. And in addition to that, the following week, which is our last week, I can't believe the season is almost over. we will welcome Judith Roy. And she's researched the lighthouses of the Delaware, and she's also written a book about them, which is absolutely gorgeous. She'll join us from Milton, Delaware, to share her findings. So with that, we have a reminder for the rooms afterwards, the Zoom meeting rooms, if you wish to join. And Graham, pipes out.
Okay, thank you, Diane.